Welcome to our third annual Community Leadership Roundtable. Very exciting. Those of you who are already familiar with Brushwood, this might be a little repetitive, but I wanted to share a little background on the organization. Brushwood Center's vision is to support resilient and connected communities, both human and ecological, so that all lead healthy and thriving lives. Our mission really centers on improving health equity and access to nature through community partnerships, through the arts, and through accessing all of these beautiful green and blue spaces that surround us. We honor this land today as the traditional home of Algonquian-speaking peoples, including the Potawatomi, Odawa, and Ojibwe, as well as the many other nations who call this place their home. We celebrate their traditions, culture, and immemorial ties to this land. And as we get settled, I'd like to cover just a few logistical items. The classic, please silence your cell phones. Always a good morning reminder. If you had them on for your alarm clock this morning, I'm checking mine too. Just a note that restrooms are just outside and down the hall. So if you need to access those, they're very easy to get to. And then just a note on the materials at your table. So at each table, we have a packet of information for today, including like our Brushwood baby here, this report, Health, Equity, and Nature report that so many of you were a part of making possible. This is actually hot off the presses yesterday, the printed version. So we're really excited to share this. You all are the first to get the physical copy of this, which is really exciting. And I also wanted to note that in your stack, we have these cards because today we are committed to action and we invite you to be a part of this. And so we're going to ask everybody today to complete one of these that shares your commitment to action and whatever your own individual next steps are in this work. Also a note that Spanish interpretation is available throughout this event. So if you are more comfortable listening to the program in Spanish, we have headsets available, and you can just contact Parker in the back, who has those, and you can listen. There'll be live simultaneous translation. So very exciting. This is our third roundtable, really focused on health, equity, and nature in Lake County. And just a quick show of hands, how many of you were at the event last year? Awesome. I think 50-50 probably. Well, a big thank you to each of you because you were a big part of making all of this happen. Over the last couple of years, we've been seeking a lot of input on data, on resources, on access, to all the lived experience knowledge that went into this report, and you were all a huge part of that. So thank you. An applause for you. And also welcome to everybody who's new to this event. We're really excited for today's conversation and to share the insights of this report with you. This is an important moment for the health of our communities and for the health of our planet. We're seeing the impacts of a changing climate just in the last month. In fact, just a few days after we released this report, the digital version, in late June, we saw the smoke from Canadian wildfires, which was fueled by drought and heat, descend on the Chicago region and give us the worst air quality in the world. I don't know how many of you were following what was happening in Canada, but this map from NASA shows the extent of the fires across Canada. It's wild. And then, last week we had the tornadoes that came through our communities. And there's the fact that in early July, globally, we broke records as the hottest day 3 times in 1 week. We know, and this report clearly shows, that racism and injustice have created deep inequities in both the environmental impacts and health impacts that are exacerbated by our changing climate. So this work is really important, and we need each of you to be a part of the solutions to ensure a vibrant future for our communities. There's a lot at stake, but there's also a lot that's worth fighting for. This photo is a view of the same lake you see out these windows, my favorite. And I took this picture on a family trip with my husband and daughter last week. This is at the Mackinac Bridge, the northern tip of Lake Michigan. This Great Lakes system is incredible. This is the drinking water source for 40 million people across the United States and Canada. It's a reminder to me that what we do here has ripple effects far beyond the borders of our communities. We live in an incredible place with water and life and culture and community, and together our voices are powerful in this work. And so today we'd like to invite you into this gathering by taking a moment to ground ourselves in your intention for today with some breaths. So we invite you to start by settling into a comfortable position. Allow your eyes to close or keep them open with a softened gaze. Begin by taking deep breaths, breathing in fully and exhaling fully. We all came into this room from different places. Now visualize a box. And in this box, we're going to put anything that you don't want to carry into the space we're all occupying right now. Maybe it's work concerns. Maybe it's a text you just got. Maybe it's an errand that you need to run after this. Whatever it is, put it in that box and set it aside. Now think about what you want to bring into this space. What is important to you? What gifts do you have to share? Pick a few words that represent what you are intentionally bringing with you into today's conversation. We'll take 2 more deep breaths. Now slowly open your eyes. Take a moment to write what you're bringing to today at the top of your program. I'm writing on my program too. I'm writing desire for change. There should be pens at your table. If you need any, just let us know. Raise your hand. And then just take a quick second, and once you've written those words on your program, share them with your neighbor. Don't be shy. Just a quick share. It's really exciting to see all of the energy and potential that's in this room. And we're going to do a lot of work at these tables, so we'll get to know each other more throughout the day, which is awesome. All right. If you've had a moment to share, keep that in your mind as we progress throughout today. We think, everything that you have to bring this conversation into this work is vital. And so we want each one of you to be a part of this. And with that, we are ready to roll. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Eliza Fournier on behalf of College of Lake County's Lakeshore campus, followed by our distinguished MC for today, Marvin Bembry, Executive Director of the John Maxwell team. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Catherine. Welcome, everyone, to the College of Lake County's Lakeshore campus. My name is Eliza Fournier, and I'm the Urban Farm Director here at CLC. We're grateful to the Brushwood Center team for hosting this event here at Lakeshore to bring even more awareness and excitement to all the things happening at this campus of CLC and in downtown Waukegan as a whole. The space we're sitting in today is the Eleanor Murkey Community Center. Raise your hand if you know Eleanor. Hey, all right, fantastic. So as you know, Eleanor was time dean of the College of Lake County and continues to be a strong force for community advocacy in the community. So we're proud to be here in the space named in her honor. This space is the crown jewel of our newest addition to the Lakeshore Campus Student Services Building, completed earlier this year. Hopefully, many of you were among the 1,500 people who had the chance to join us for our community open house earlier in February this year. Raise your hand if you were a part of that event. Fantastic. Welcome back. Welcome back. In this new building alone, we offer, speaking of health, in this building, we offer programs in state-of-the-art labs in medical assisting, phlebotomy, and certified assistance, the front lines of health and equity in Lake County. In our dental hygiene program is located in 111 North Genesee and actually offers, I don't know if a lot of people know this, $15 dental checkups, cleanings right across the street to the community. Dean Jesus Ruiz will be here later to greet everyone, so make sure you say hello to him too. In the coming soon department, you may have heard about the Urban Farm Center that is planned a lot just north of us. When you get a chance, I hope everyone can go out on the balcony and survey the beautiful view, and also the lot just north of us that will be the that will kind of complete this campus. Here's a rendering of the concept that's currently planned for that space. So also, if you get a chance, come and look at this rendering. It's just going to be back here. This space will include retail featuring locally grown and produced foods, a commercial kitchen to support growing food businesses, grab-and-go food and drinks, classrooms, and of course, the heart of every farm center, growing. This growing will look different than growing many of you have experienced before. It's all going to happen inside a building. So controlled environment agriculture, like Catherine mentioned with climate change, we need a way to supply a year-round, high-quality, affordable food source for Lake County as climate change kind of descends upon and impacts our food system. We've been working for the past year with our partners at the City of Waukegan to obtain all of the zoning variances and permits for this space. And so now, think about the timing for this. We'll be working over the next kind of 9 months to solicit feedback about the space and suggestions from the community about what should be included as programming and design features that should be included in this space. Hopefully starting bidding for the construction next summer with groundbreaking, another celebration in downtown Waukegan next September. So that's kind of and in the meantime, we're going to do a little fundraising too. So hopefully if anyone's got any spare change they want to throw to the project, that'd be great. In the meantime, we've worked really closely with our partners at the Lake County Forest Preserve District to transfer the management of the Green Youth Farm in the Greenbelt Forest Preserve. Catherine mentioned the event last year, which was held. Many people don't know that across the street there's a beautiful 1-acre farm where high school students have worked for the past 20 years getting paid to do farming activities in that space. And this year we were able to hire our first group. So that management of that space actually transferred from the Chicago Botanic Garden to a Lake County-based institution, College of Lake County, to really illuminate career pathways for young people in the space of food, health, and jobs. So we're really, really excited about the potential for that space now that it's kind of centered here in Lake County. So thank you to our partners there as well. So welcome. Make sure to go out on the balcony because it is an unparalleled view. I think it's unique in Lake County, and it's really, really beautiful. And we kind of will see all of the things that we're talking about brought to life. You can see just from this balcony. So thank you for being here and welcome. Enjoy the morning.
Welcome. Good morning, everyone. Oh, that was so weak. Let's try it again. Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to this third annual Leadership Roundtable talking about health, equity, and nature here in Lake County. Thank you, Catherine, for roping me in again to be a part of this opportunity. This is the third one, and I've participated in 3. I was actually pondering out loud the idea that perhaps I'm a junior now, so next year as a senior, that would be my final year. And Catherine reminded me of the notion of being a lifelong student and post-grad doctorate. So I guess I'm roped in for at least to the conclusion of this session, depending on how well I do, right? But, I want to kick off with just a quote or two that I think really intimates the importance of this particular session. It's by an unknown person, and it says, "Our health is intimately connected with the health of our planet. We must strive for equity and sustainability in order to secure a healthy future for all." And then finally, one other quote: "Nature does not discriminate. It provides equally for us all. It is our duty to ensure that health and equity are extended to every corner of our society." This, I believe, really encapsulates kind of the essence of this meeting today. And so thank you for joining together your collective intel, your collective experiences to be a part of this conversation, but not only the conversation, but the resulting actions that all of us are going to be challenged to do. Thanks again. I'd like to acknowledge our elected officials that have reserved or RSVP'd. And if you're here when I call your name, please stand. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge, and I know she's here, my friend and the wonderful Honorable Senator Adrienne Johnson from the 30th District. Thank you. Holly Kim, Lake County Treasurer. State's Attorney Eric Reinhardt, are you here, sir? Waukegan Mayor Ann Taylor. Awesome. Mark Jones, Waukegan Township Supervisor. All right. Township Trustee Dulce Ortiz. Wonderful. Commissioner Anton Matthews. All right. Warren Newport Library Board Vice President Celeste Flores. Dr. Michael Carner, Lake County Regional Superintendent. All right, the Honorable Anthony Vega, Lake County Clerk. Let's give wonderful George Bridges, Waukegan Park District Commissioner and Chief of Staff, Waukegan Mayor's Office. Thomas Mallard, 10th Congressional Committeeman. All right. We also have staff representing U.S. Senator Durbin. Are you here? Would you please stand? Congressman Brad Schneider's office. Wonderful. 60th District, my friend Rita Mayfield, Representative Rita Mayfield. And Representative Daniel Diedick. All right, wonderful, wonderful. Do you have others? Laura Favier Diaz. Wonderful. Thank you, thank you. So did we overlook anyone, or were we not aware of any other elected officials? If you are here, please stand. All right, so very good, thank you. Let's give a warm round of applause to all of our elected officials, all of you that are here today. So we're going to have a pretty robust opportunity to learn, to grow, to expand our knowledge, but then also to collaborate. And to kick off our session today, we're going to start with a panel, and I have the honor to introduce our panel today, which I'd like to ask to go ahead and come up to the dais here. Danny Aboud is the Director of Community Partnerships and Programs for Brushwood. Danny builds and maintains Brushwood Center partnerships with community organizations and manages community programs, works with partners across the county to increase equitable access to nature and for our youth. I'd like to welcome Nikki Figueroa. Had the pleasure of sitting next to Nikki, rising senior at Lake Forest College, majoring in sociology, anthropology, and a minor in religion. She has a passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, and had a wonderful opportunity to just ask her a powerful coaching question a little while ago, which is going to shape her life for the rest of her life. Excellent. Thank you. Celeste Flores serves as Director of Community Building at Mano a Mano Family Resource Center. Incredible reputation throughout Lake County, working with our immigrant community, worked in national environmental justice areas. She's the former co-chair of Clean Power Lake County, and she's built powerful relationships across the spectrum to advance equity there. She's also part of the Warren Newport Library Board. And then finally, Nydia Gonzalez Carson. Welcome. Self-taught, multidisciplinary freelance artist with an incredibly eclectic background. Her work is influenced by her life as a Mexican-American mom and wife and daughter of entrepreneurial immigrants. In fact, her father has certainly impacted this community in terms of food, and so she has an incredible background. She's a speech language pathologist, deeply interested in language development of children birth to age 5. She manages a grocery store, coffee shop, Drip and Culture with her husband while curating their boutique. Please join me in welcoming all four members of our panel. Danny, I'd like to ask you to kick us off here today and share with us some exciting developments. Welcome, Danny.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, love to be greeted. Okay. First of all, I want to thank you all for joining us today. We're so excited to share out more about the findings of our report with all of you, the process, and where we want to go next. I want to start by saying something that has been asked of me a lot lately in different meetings is what gives me hope, especially in the context that Catherine gave of us beginning to see the impacts of catastrophic climate change, impacts that many people across this globe have been seeing for decades, but now starting to affect broader communities, bringing more people into the realities of the time we're living. But despite that, there are a lot of things that give me hope. I think one that's most pressing and prominent right now is the fact that there's a room full of people that are willing to gather at 8 a.m. on a random Wednesday to come and talk about what these impacts look like for us in this community and what we can be doing about it together. So quick round of applause for everyone for coming today. And thank you for giving me hope. The other thing that gives me hope is getting to work with young people. Many of you in this room know me from the youth programs that Brushwood Center partners on through our It's a Win Art and Wellness in Nature program. And I am so proud to say that Lake County is full of compassionate, intelligent, curious, and fantastic young people who are going to make this world so much brighter and more beautiful than we could possibly imagine. So thank you to all of you who work, support, and rear those children. You're doing an amazing job. And to start out this presentation today, I also want to open with a beautiful quote from somebody who's in the audience today, Maria Colunga, one of our longtime partners from Round Lake. Maria said, "We learn about nature and we remember our journeys. We remember the bond that we have with our ancestors, and that's how nature operates and how nature heals itself." And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's important to think, too, about what Catherine said about being reminded by the lake that borders are man-made. the things that we do in this space impact so much more than just our immediate community, and the impacts that we have as individuals can go so much broader, especially when we amplify those impacts by working in tandem with one another. And at Brushwood Center, that looks like a lot of different things. So why are we talking about health, equity, and nature all together? First and foremost, because they're inextricably linked. At Brushwood Center, we deeply believe in the healing power of engaging with the natural environment and creative expression through the arts, but we also know that access to those spaces are not equitable. We know there are many barriers that keep people from being able to go outside and enjoy spending time outside in a way that is safe, that is positive for our health. We know there are many barriers keeping people from accessing creative activities like arts education. And we know that there are many barriers, many of the same barriers that block people from accessing those first two things that keep people from being able to access quality health care. And so to talk about one without talking about the other two would be to miss a much bigger part of a much larger picture. And this report and all of our work is truly grounded in the belief that everybody has the inalienable right to a healthy environment and access to care. And so this image here by Lamont Hayes is part of our visible exhibition, which I'll speak to a little bit later. But it really embodies, we feel, the energy of this report. It's titled Liberation. And it's what it shows. If you're unable to see this image, please, we encourage you to come up and view it later to come to our exhibition. But it shows somebody feeling free in a space, feeling vulnerable, feeling connected, feeling secure, and feeling welcome. After years of hearing from our partners about different issues, those barriers I mentioned, keeping people from accessing health, equity, and nature in their communities, we wanted to put together a report that could help fuel change. Research shows that social and environmental factors contribute to the risk of premature death twice as much as healthcare access. Twice as much as healthcare access. So, in 2022, we launched the Health, Equity, and Nature Accelerator to focus on creating systemic change and tackle the root causes of these inequities. This report is the first project of the Accelerator, showing the current landscape of health equity, nature access, and climate change in Lake County. The goal of this report broadly is to empower systemic change. Beyond that, we want this piece to serve as a tool for our community members, for organizations, and for our decision makers, like those folks who were so lovely as to stand up in front of everybody and take applause earlier. This one's for you too. To empower people to improve the health and well-being. We did this by compiling data, identifying priority geographies for investment, and providing actionable recommendations. And the end of the report that is on every person's place at the table. So if at any point you have trouble seeing any of the things I'm talking about on the screen, feel free to flip through that report and try and find the different pieces. So with those goals in mind, there's a lot of people to thank. Well, first of all, this report, which was the culmination of a year-long process, was led by three individuals who deserve many more thanks than I could possibly give in this one moment. But that's our Accelerator team, Natalia Ospina, Shea Anthony, and Shreya Arregula. Shea Anthony is our map wizard with a strong background in ArcGIS. She's a graduate of Tufts University in conservation medicine, which we didn't even know was a thing you could be a graduate in. An incredibly cool, multifaceted degree. Shreya, who led our qualitative research component, is a PhD candidate at DePaul in community psychology and an incredible, empathetic individual who did an amazing job finding time to interview community members and gather personal community feedback and voice in this report. And Natalia Ospina, who holds a decade of experience in public health advocacy, who led the charge and helped coordinate the creation of this report that's in front of you today. In addition to those three individuals, there's the rest of our Brushwood Center team. We had an incredible advisory board of 16 individuals who met monthly to help review the development and process of this report. We thank you so deeply for all of your contributions and your help in editing this very magnificent piece of work that took a lot of back and forth and Google Doc comments to complete and finalize. I also want to give a special thanks to the artists who contributed to the report, as well as our companion exhibition, Visible. which is on display at Brushwood Center right now if you want to come check it out, as well as the Find Yourself Outside activity book, which you'll also find seated at your tables. And finally, I want to thank our funders who supported this project, the Walder Foundation, the Chicago Community Trust, the Gorder Family Foundation, and the Harold and Adeline S. Morrison Family Foundation. We are so grateful for your support in making this report and the follow-up work that will be coming out of it possible. So the report is structured in 92 pages. It contains 10 chapters. There are 30 different maps and figures illustrating the findings and different data points. There's artwork to accompany the pieces from that visible exhibition. Knowing that everybody takes in information differently, we wanted to make sure we had a broad variety of ways of representing that data. There's also an executive summary for those of you who are not interested in reading a 92-page report. I can't understand why. But there is an executive summary with highlights and key takeaways in case you're trying to give somebody the general overview, as well as a glossary and appendix so you can follow up on some of the data sets and resources that we utilized in this report. And to help frame the report in the larger context it sits within, our accelerator team came up with this graphic that really tries to illustrate how the social drivers of health are really what's grounding this report in this space, as well as in larger context that can be applied across communities. So our team conducted a literature review and used social drivers of health to conceptualize this intersection of health, equity, and nature. So most of the data that's represented in this report is from publicly available data sets. But taking those data sets and putting them in the context of us understanding what's really driving the root causes of these issues. Social drivers of health are the conditions in which people are born, live, work, and play that affect their quality of life, outcomes, and risks. And we framed the data of the report in this context. While we also focus on things like neighborhood and built environment, we really want to emphasize the interconnectivity of all of the drivers of health and how they impact each other. And you may have heard this term more commonly referred to as the social determinants of health, but we've been very intentional in utilizing the phrase social drivers to imply that these are not fixed, these are not outcomes that can't be changed. We have complete control in our society over how people are experiencing these different health disparities, and we have the power to change them. So rather than saying these issues are socially determined as if they have been determined forever, they are being driven, and those drivers can be shifted and changed as long as we prioritize our goals around the shifting and changing. The methods for this project included, as I mentioned, the compilation of existing data sets. So our team identified and synthesized multiple data sets, both local and national, many of which came from the Public Health Department's annual reports, as well as from larger EPA data sets on environmental health data. We also utilized, as I mentioned, Shay's skills in GIS mapping to create compilations of existing data sets into geospatial data, as well as novel aggregate maps, which we will take a look at a bit later, like this very large, beautiful map in the corner here. And Shreya's work collecting qualitative data took place as well, resulting in personal narratives and community voice being represented through the form of multiple interviews with various community members from across Lake County, as well as art. As I've mentioned several times, we wanted to make sure that the creative process was represented in this report and that people had ways to connect with the data beyond just reading the report in its entirety. So we commissioned artists to take the initial findings and metrics from the report and take them and interpret them into art, to take their own experiences of accessing nature, their own experiences of finding that healing and health in the outdoors, and represent them visually. And so we have, yeah, absolutely. So we do have some incredible artwork as a result of that. That is another way for people to connect into the data alongside the maps and the narrative of the report as well. And with that, I will transition to Nikki to discuss some of the findings.
Hello. To start off on the key findings, I'd like to ask you all a question. And I would hope some of you can raise your hands and share some of your favorite green and blue spaces that you find in Lake County that you enjoy visiting.
Independence Grove. Yes. Yeah. Waukegan ravines.
Yes.
Yes, Brushwood Rise.
Yes, Amherst.
Such a great place. Yes.
Zion State Park.
Yes. Amazing beach park. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and share some of the findings we found of this report, which is that we are very privileged to have such great open spaces near us, and the Great Lakes provide a great resource for our community, as well as we have 50,000 acres of forest preserves and open space around us, along with 550 miles of trails and bikeway connections, and 40 miles of Lake Michigan beaches, and more than 200 lakes and rivers around us. However, with those findings, we also found that access still remains a challenge to many communities in our communities. And we were able to interview many respondents within Lake County and found that almost 50% of Black and African American respondents and 31% of Hispanic respondents expressed concern in access, safety, and maintenance within these open spaces, compared to 21% of white respondents. As they also identified major concerns in accessing these spaces, such as limited transportations. A lot of public transportation services do not allow specific spots to be accessed within those services, as well as a limited access in language availability of these materials in these spaces. For example, Spanish, there's not many Spanish translation of materials, as well as issues with the cold weather and limited culturally relevant programs, providers, and partnerships in these open spaces. So with that, we were able to make a demographic analysis within our report, and we were able to look into the demographics of race, population, average life expectancy, the average the housing cost burden, and the median household income within Lake County. And we found that a lot of mostly brown and Black communities were the ones experiencing the lowest life expectancy, the highest housing cost burden, and the lowest household median income. And as we know, this is not just a situation that occurs in our community. This is really a national issue. But on a brighter note, we were able to also discover that a lot of the environmental justice policies and reforms that are taking place are being led by our own community members. We are really privileged to have today, yes. We're really privileged to have today Clean Power Lake County here today, which we are really grateful for. Yes. Who has made some major successes in our community. And in this report, we can see that 5 out of the 8 Superfund sites in Lake County are located in Waukegan. And Clean Power Lake County is an organization that roots from Waukegan and works on being able to raise advocacy for these issues. And just last year, they were able to successfully shut down the coal-fired power plant in Waukegan. So yes, an applause for that. Yes. And they're still really working diligently to work on the ethanol oxide pollution and the coal ash ponds left behind. So we are very grateful to have them here today. And that's a picture of them. Yes. And with that, we can see the connections that pollution and environmental issues have with our health, with our community members. Unfortunately, a lot of the populations near these Superfund sites are also the ones with the highest prevalence to asthma and diabetes. So we see the connection there with health impacts that are long-lasting, not just minor situations. They really have a big impact on our community and the health that we face. And along with that, in our report, we were able to make a systemic inequities assessment map, which is a collection of 38 data sets, and that includes demographic data, health, environmental quality, transportation, and some green space availability. And with that, we were able to see that in this map, which is also located in the report that you have on your table, the areas with the darkest blue are the ones most overburdened with inequities. and those areas include Waukegan, Park City, and North Chicago. Along with these burdens that these communities face, like every community in the US, we are also facing increased health risks due to our changing climate. And those include that research shows that rising temperatures are increasing health-related illness, lack of sleep quality, and increased allergens and issues with food availability. Also, we see that increased precipitation also affects mosquito and tick-borne illnesses, as well as the lack of good water quality and impacts from flooding and the increase of flooding that is prevalent in our county as well. And last but not least, through this report, we were really able to connect with our community members and find that nature can really be a source of healing for everyone. It doesn't matter your race, ethnicity, age, or income level. Every person was really able to see the benefits in accessing nature outdoors. And these are some quotes that some of our members had, but it also, I think, frames really well that there are various benefits to spending more time outdoors, whether it be health, both physically and mentally, a deeper connection with your spiritual beliefs, or a deeper connection with yourself and your community. So we really hope that this report can be used as a tool and as a resource to be able to connect people with themselves, but also with becoming a better person for the community and helping the advances in our community. Now on to recommendations.
Awesome. Well, thanks again to Brushwood for creating this. When I started working with Danny, never thought I would be this involved now with the organization itself. But, I guess maybe that's a warning to folks. If you care about something, you might end up on a board or something else. But this report and this work has most of us in this room, those that live in Waukegan, those that are here visiting, this report, these maps are nothing new if you've been involved with the community and doing this work. But I think it's a great illustration and a great tool for organizations, for individuals to be able to use this. And I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge another grassroots organization that is also doing work, the North Chicago Think Tank as well. Thank you for being here. I think a lot of times what we see is community members having to become experts in different areas. So right now, we're focusing on health, environment, and equity. But, there's so much more that's here. And I know a lot of you guys also in this room are working on so many other issues. Everything's intersectional. So for this report, it could have been much bigger, but we were really trying to, keep it small, and it became this monster. So you guys are the first ones to get this report alongside with me. So it has, at least a printed copy. It was out virtually. So we're going to go over the recommendations, me and Nidia. We're not going to go deep into them, right, because of sake of time and everything else. But, really encourage you, it's chapter 9, to look more in depth what you can do as an individual, what you can do if you're an elected official. There's really something for everyone. And it's about how are we building these healthy communities that are able to thrive without all the systemic oppression that we see here, right? So the first one is it's center community voices and assets, right? So again, how are y'all having conversations with people that are living here day in and day out? We talked about the 5 Superfund sites. Someone brought up Independence Grove. That used to be a Superfund site, right? So we know that these spaces can become something else. So how are we having conversations? How are we prioritizing speaking with community members that are living this day in and day out? And if you're an elected official and you live in the area, you also are living this day in and day out, right? But how do we make sure we go beyond just creating something and letting it be on a shelf, right? With Clean Power Lake County, it was brought up the retirement of the coal plant. When that work started in 2013, we couldn't really get any of the staff that worked at the city to talk to us. And now we're in conversations with them, working with them on legislation, something that I think if Dulce Ortiz would have been told at the time when she was speaking at council, she wouldn't have believed you, right? So things take time. I don't think they should, which is why I'm always pushing back, even if we get these great wins, because our communities have been suffering for too long. We've been living with this for too long. The next priority. The next recommendations prioritize communities overburdened by systemic inequalities. So you see all the recommendations that are here, right? And how do we address health, equity, and nature as deeply connected systems of social diverse of health? We brought up ethylene oxide, and the EPA classified ETO as a class 1 carcinogen in 2016, but they knew much longer that this was causing cancer. It's 2023, and we are still working on getting them to do something, right? So even if we identify something, that's why the urgency is there, because we know that's going to take years, because sometimes we hear from government agencies that we need to take our time and do our research. But when a government agency wants to do something, they move quickly if it's in what they want. We are currently seeing that with the Lake County Forest Preserve and the potential expansion of the Waukegan Airport. There has been an urgency in that. But when we learned about ethylene oxide, there was an urgency in Willowbrook and not in Waukegan. And that's what we see time and time again. So really, these recommendations... These recommendations are really about how do we have conversations with people and have honest conversations, but are willing to imagine another world that we don't think is possible, because that's what we know can be possible. And that's exactly the work that you hear from young students, that you hear from these grassroots organizations. And how do we make sure that they're the ones that are leading this and that they find joy in this? Because one of the hardest things that I've had to do while doing this work is leading the youth group and seeing them realize that they can advocate, they become experts on things, and they don't have the power to make that change because someone's already made a decision on their behalf. The next one is about advancing climate justice and clean air and water. And maybe it sounds like I've already been speaking about all of this because it's all so interconnected, right? And we have to make sure that our communities have access to clean air and clean water and that they're able to thrive. And we need to make sure that we're seeing beyond some of these things. Who knows off the hand what the minimum wage in Illinois is? $13, right? So when people say who's involved, people aren't showing up to my meetings that are, at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. People are getting off work, but also most of the majority of the people that live in this community are making $13 an hour. And we're wanting them to come to a meeting, right? So it takes all of us. And there's a lot of recommendations here of how we can establish this. And there's more. And we're going to now hear from lovely Nidia to finish them out.
Thank you, Celeste. You are a natural and #gold. Okay, so I'm just going to present let's see here. All right, so I'm going to present the 4th, 5th, and 6th recommendations. The 4th being, so increasing awareness and access to outdoor green and blue spaces, and we can do this by ensuring that the marketing and promotional materials, including the trail maps and the signage. Sorry, guys. There's something here causing some fog in my brain. That these programs and signage and trail maps, that they're translated to Spanish and other languages as our community changes. A 5th, I'm going to breeze right through these. A fifth recommendation theme is to better integrate nature solutions with healthcare systems. And we can do this by providing professional development to local health providers, providing them resources that really highlight the health benefits of accessing and using these blue and green spaces. And this one kind of hits home for me as a speech language pathologist, because I think, okay, I hadn't thought about this before, but when I work with clients, we can actually meet at a forest preserve, and there is a host of language opportunities there that we can work on in a natural space, almost like reading a book at the beach. It's like, it's pleasant. It's going to come to us more naturally. Also, it is a naturalistic environment. So there's just so many benefits from that side for me. And let's see, the sixth recommendation is to invest in culturally relevant and social infrastructure for outdoor engagement. So how do we do this? Well, we increase culturally relevant nature-based programs by investing in more multilingual facilitators, community design programs, and partnerships, which is exactly what the community asked for. So it's not a whole lot of mystery there. We just give them what they're asking for. Give us what we're asking for. And that is my part. Thanks, you guys.
Sorry, Celeste. I'm a little bit taller. Thank you, Nidia. Thank you, Nikki, Celeste, Nidia, for all of your remarks. And so now comes the question that comes with all of this kind of work, inevitably at the end of any presentation. What do we do with all this? We have these data sets, again, these facts and figures, while we formalize them into this report, are not news. They're not news. They're the lived experiences of our partners that we have been hearing for years, that we have brought to our elected officials for years. And I've heard, as Celeste mentioned, the similar comments about the slow rate of change, the need for more data, the need for more information, for more facts and figures. Well, we put it into a 92-page report, so I don't know how much more facts, figures, or data anyone wants to sift through at this point. And we have these recommendations really clearly outlined because we want it to be simple. We don't want to have to keep waiting on these long-term timelines for change, because the reality is that when we have to wait on years and years for change to happen, that's years and years of more kids having asthma. That's years and years of more families and community members being poisoned by things like ethylene oxide, by toxins in their communities. That's not just years passing by, that's people's lives passing by in a lower quality than anybody deserves. And so how do we activate the recommendations of this report? How do we move these pieces forward? We think about that in a few different ways. One, with Brushwood Center, is engaging people through the arts, creatively, connecting people, creating conversations with folks outside of this room, with folks outside of the organizations represented in this room, with people who would never normally have access to a report like this or to these facts and figures. We want to make sure that the findings of this report are translated across multiple platforms into different languages and ways of communicating that are accessible for people of multiple audiences. So one way we did that, which I mentioned earlier, is the Visible exhibition, which is our companion art exhibition to this report that really explores what it means to connect to nature, to connect these topics of health equity and how we experience our built and natural environments in various communities in Lake County. So we invite you to join us at Brushwood Center to bring people out. We are happy to schedule tours of the exhibition. We are also open 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 6 days a week. You're welcome to come through. Our gallery is always free and open to the public during our open hours. Come and check out the report. We have the large maps, not as large as this one, but we have large printouts of our maps accompanying the artwork in each hallway to frame the data and set the scene and the tone of this exhibition. And we view art and culture as a vehicle for these conversations and a vehicle for change. It's a lot easier to get people in a room talking about ideas when there's already creative representation on the walls, when there's already ideas flowing through that artwork. Another way we can activate around the findings of this report is, again, joining us at Brushwood, but alongside Nidia and Adam from Drip and Culture for our On the Grounds Saturdays, which feature hiking, coffee, and conversation around the recommendations and the findings of this report. So This series is running through September. Every other Saturday. We started this Saturday, we started a couple of Saturdays ago, but you can come starting this Saturday, July 22nd through September 30th, and join us to explore the beauty of the Ryerson Conservation Area, the incredible coffee from Drip and Culture. Amazing work. If you haven't been, what are you doing? And join us in community conversation, talking about what we can do differently, how we can work together across fields, across expertise, how we can leverage our different partnerships and knowledge areas, our community knowledge, to start moving some of this work forward.
What time, Danny?
Oh, thank you. From 9 to 11. You can check it out on our website, also brushwoodcenter.org, to learn more about the On the Grounds partnership, as well as following Brushwood Center and Drip and Culture on social media. We both post every other week about this partnership. And finally, again, to the idea of translating this report into something accessible for multiple audiences, we created another companion piece, which you'll find on your tables, called Find Yourself Outside. This coloring and activity book is featured in our 2023 Nature Explorer backpacks, which we've been distributing for the last 4 years across Lake County. This year, we are distributing 1,200 backpacks with bilingual art and nature supplies to youth and families, largely through our partnerships with libraries around Lake County. I see many of our library partners here today. Hey, guys. But this book really takes the qualitative data, those personal experiences, the community voice of the report, and translates it into a format that is accessible for children. This focuses on ideas of as simple as why is it good for us to be outside? Why is it healthy for us to spend time in nature? As well as why aren't we? Why can't everyone spend time outside? What are barriers that keep people from doing that? What are community assets? How can we think creatively and work together to help people access the outdoors? It also features incredible artwork by 4 artists that we commissioned to partner with us on this project. So there's fun things to color, fun activities to help families explore nature and art together, and really strong storytelling around what it means to engage as a community outside and what kids can do to get involved in their local communities as well. And finally, we also are happy to keep talking about this. If you would like our accelerator team to come and present at your organization, to your staff, to your community group, whatever, what have you, we are happy to come and talk more about this report, to share a presentation, to talk about the report findings. We also have a way for you to sign up for more physical copies of the report in English and Spanish, which I believe is the QR code on the center of your tables. So if you scan that, it'll take you to a form where you can request both presentations from our team as well as more physical copies of the report to distribute. And finally, we are also working on launching a pilot program, which will be starting in partnership with Highwood Public Library and their promontoras, their public health workers, to really begin this process, which you mentioned earlier, of empowering health workers to incorporate nature-based solutions into their practices. So using time outside, training providers on how to incorporate nature into mental and physical health care. So we're super excited to see where that project goes, to share more information about that probably at our next Community Leadership Roundtable next year. But this work keeps moving forward. The report, while it's the first project of the accelerator, is by no means the end or the last. It's just the beginning of a really exciting continuing evolution of health, equity, and nature work in Lake County. And we are so, so grateful to have you all join us for this journey. And with that, I cede my time back to Marvin and the audience.
Let's give all of our panelists a great round of applause. You can see the passion, you can feel it's palpable and really energizing, isn't it? As Nikki was presenting some of the findings, I took a note that it was more than just kind of cold stats that sometimes report statistical kinds of things leave you with. And what I felt from that is that these stats are not just stuff on paper. These are real people, right? But rather than looking at it, as Danny said, from a determinant standpoint, we can look at all of the above from a driver's standpoint, and we people, humans, we can change those drivers. Thank you, Danny, for clarifying that for us, and for all of our panelists for adding to this discussion and giving us some new ways to think about this. They were so passionate and gave you so much information that we're going to have to defer our Q&A. We had a few minutes set for Q&A, but I'm going to ask you, if you do have a burning question, to grab one of the panelists after the session and ask your question directly. I'm sure they'll stay all day, right? They'll stay and talk with you and share with you. But we have an activity that we really wanted to ensure that all of us had an opportunity to participate in. And that is where we began to kind of say, so what? All of the above, so what? Hearing the stats, getting a synopsis of the finding, now so what? And really the so what is when we kind of bring our collective intel together and began to look at how we can map our assets. So we're going to do an exercise for you, or have you do an exercise. And it is an asset mapping activity. So in front of you, there should be a worksheet. And in that worksheet, what we're going to ask you to do is, at your table, we're going to have some table breakout groups. And so, as we are normal to do in breakout groups, we'll have you select a person to record, to take some what we want you to do is to go around the table, introduce yourself, talk about the role that you play individually in the greater Lake County community, and how you can bring your strength, your expertise, your access to resources, your knowledge, etc., to help us further perpetuate this kind of work around health equity. So because this is a very passionate subject, we're going to ask you to kind of put the bridle on yourself and kind of self-regulate your introduction and talking about your resources and so forth. If you're talking probably in the introduction for more than a minute, you're probably talking too long, right? Okay, so we're going to give you about 15 minutes or so with this exercise, and then at the end of that time, we're going to ask you to select a few of the assets to represent your group, and we're going to call on you for real quick synopsis of perhaps one of those items in a report out. Add your Post-it notes to the map over here in the corner at the end. All right. So let's go ahead and jump in, go around, introduce yourself, select a recorder, select a spokesperson, etc. Thank you. Let's go ahead and come back together. Take your Post-it notes and bring them up to the front here and place them on the map. There we go. All right. Thank you very much. Love the buzz, love the energy in the room. But find your seats as quickly as you can. Thank you. So, how exciting this is, and we really appreciate the power and the energy that's displayed here. I want you to just take a look at the map, and you can see that there are a significant number of assets that, interestingly enough, map to some of the more affected areas and areas where there are some definite needs. And so this is just an exciting opportunity. And as Dana said earlier, you know, we can change this, right? We can make a difference by virtue of pulling our collective power, our resources, our finances, our energy to make a difference in this particular space. Let's get maybe one table. Is there one table that would just kind of like to represent in like 2 minutes or less the conversation, some of the assets? All right, there we are. Go right ahead. And what you brought forward here. Thank you very much.
So we were thinking of a few spaces. One we talked about was Independence Grove. We also talked about the Botanical Gardens. Also, the Lake County Fairgrounds was another one. And in Wadsworth, I think it's corner of 41 and Wadsworth Road, the wetlands, because we talked about utilizing that and even starting with high schools and science clubs to get children more excited and exposed and connecting with different organizations.
Fantastic. Great job. Great job. You know what? I just looked at my watch, and since I have the microphone, we're going to do 2 more tables, all right? So who'd like to be, all right, go right ahead. And who's the third table? Third table? Is there one more table? This table here? All right, very good. Go right ahead.
So our table was very inspirational, but we also felt the need to highlight that Indigenous people make up 2% of the global population, but they protect 80% of the biodiversity on the planet. And so we thought it was necessary when having this conversation that we frame it correctly and we talk about the importance of decolonization when you talk about getting access back to land, because this is about land theft and labor theft due to white supremacy and colonization. And so once we acknowledged that, we started to talk about some of the traits of Indigenous populations, what they choose to do, what they choose to fight against. The spaces that they look for healing. And we talked about Black people being unprepared to even be outside because we've been so colonized. So we talked about implementing some of that into our solutions and saying, how do we prepare people to be outside and be comfortable in those spaces and talk about decolonization.
Wow, thank you very much. And our final table reporting out is here, I believe. Maggie?
Hi. Okay. Billy, brilliant job. Going after you is always so difficult. I love you. So our group talked a lot about the specific assets that each of us as individuals was kind of bringing to the table. And it was interesting because I think all of this, when you look at that map, it doesn't really reflect on the map, but there's so much capacity within this room alone to change the entirety of the county, not just Waukegan or North Chicago or Zion, but the other areas that often go underrepresented. So we talked about policy and advocacy opportunities, the existing coalitions that we can build upon. So I know in the beautiful study that you guys put out, this report is, I was saying it looks like a coffee table book. It's so beautiful. Congratulations. The coalitions that you represented in there, like Live-Old Lake County, is so important to leverage that community's sense of urgency, motivation, and continued good work. Connection. I think connection is critical in the community, and representing community as a whole and not as one particular geographic like municipality we have to get over that as Lake County. We have to think of Lake County as a whole and not as just these 52, 53 municipalities. So.
Good stuff. Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Maggie. And you're absolutely right. So much power in this room. Shout out to the organization that you lead, Lake County Community Foundation, for the great work that they do as well. Would you like to, sir? Please. You'll be a final person, though.
Hi, folks. My name is well, you can call me Mies. I'm working with Warren Township High School as the family specialist, dealing with, again, the families that deal with SNAP benefits, those that, again, often don't want to get the help because they don't know that they have the right, but they do. They have it and they deserve the world. And, culturally competent activities. How many of you have ridden a horse? Raise your hand. Whoa, that's a lot. That usually doesn't happen, but but again, if you liked it, you could do it again, and it's in Wadsworth. We got the resources here by our community, for our community. Again, I went to COC, so I'm very happy to have this programming here. And again, I'm from Lake County through and through. I went to Lake Forest College, and again, I'm back at Warren. So again, full service all throughout. So again, meeting people at where they are. Again, doing things that we know work, and again, not really doing the most. Again, we know what we need and we know who needs it. So we got to go at it. And again, with people that are from the community. So again, thank you.
Stuff. Thank you so much. We're going to end our time here just before I turn it over to Catherine. But on in front of each one of you is a commitment card. So the map kind of represented some level of capacity, but there's incredibly more capacity than what is represented on the map. And that capacity, I would suggest to you, can be represented by our collective will. I was talking to Mr. Vega, Clerk Vega, and we're saying, hey, look at this report. We've got the stuff here. We've got the data. We've got the recommendations. Now really all we need is the collective will. And so this commitment card is a representation of your will. And so we're going to ask you, before you leave today, to fill out this commitment card, leave it there on your table, and the Brushwood Center will collate and take a look at all of this and look at how we can play a convening role in making a difference in this particular space. I'd like to conclude with one final quote that I think represents some of what we've discussed today. And I'm going to modify it just a tad bit for currency. But it said, the ultimate test of a person's conscience may be their willingness to sacrifice something today for future generations whose words of thanks will not be heard. And in a great sense, the work that we're doing here is legacy work. And we may never see, in many cases, the total, full impact of it. But future generations will thank us for making the kind of difference that we're making. And with that, Catherine, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marvin. Wow. Those are powerful words to end on. And thank you so much, Marvin, for being our MC for your junior year here. And thank you so much to our speakers, to Eliza and College of Lake County for hosting us, to the caterers who helped bring this wonderful food and coffee and caffeine into our morning, to the Brushwood team who did a lot of work making this happen, our Spanish translation, we're so grateful, and to each of you for taking the time out of your day and you bringing your brain power and your presence to this work. There's a lot to be done. We are excited to follow your lead. You know, you each have so much influence and power, and there is a lot that can be done just with the folks in this room. So if you are on boards, if you work in the community, if you are interested in activating your network around this work, we are here to help in whatever way we can, through art, through distributing the report, by giving presentations. So please connect with us and take us up on that offer, because we really want to see this work continue to grow and support a vibrant future for all of us. So with that, just a quick reminder that to turn in your commitment cards, right at the end, we've got a nice little box for containing the cards with Parker, and to have a really wonderful, beautiful day. And I hope you can carry a lot of this positive energy with you throughout the rest of your week. Thank you so much.